Welcome back, dear viewers, and in this segment of our program we are going to talk about preparations for the new academic years in universities, as it is expected to start in the coming days. We'll try to know more about the required reforms for the educational system here in Egypt, and how can we help in making it more connected to the market. And we are joined today by Mr. Nabil Gad. He is an educational expert. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gad, for joining us. A pleasure and an honor to have you, sir. Yes, indeed, Shireen, the Supreme Council of Universities, the SCU, has approved a timetable for the 2019-2020 academic year, noting that it will start on the 21st of September. First of all, congratulations to our sons and daughters who are to start their university life. And good luck to them, and good luck to those who are continuing in their university life. And Dr. Gad is a professor of continuing education. So, sir, what would you like to say at the start of the academic year to your students? And what about continuing education, Dr. Gad? Talk to us about it, please.
Right. First of all, you got the words out of my mouth, because I was about to congratulate all the students and teaching staffs in the universities for the start-up of the new academic year. So you just preceded me in this. Wishing them the best of luck, and wishes are not enough, but this should be done through sincere, hard work, which will lead to fruitful results. It's an ABC of any successful project to have very good planning. And this planning, of course, is done through the Ministry of Higher Education and all the people who are in charge of the educational process in Egypt. In fact, the higher education is the link and the critical point between the secondary stage and the new stage. Our students, I'm afraid to say, are accustomed to having what we may call the spoon-feeding technique in the secondary stage. But in the university, it is absolutely different. The student has to be a hard worker, to be a sort of researcher for the future prospects, and there should be not only individual work, but pair work, group work, and this will lead to having a sort of researches through going to the libraries, having presentations in front of the others, and evaluation, and a follow-up by the supervisors or the professors who are in charge of teaching. The sincere efforts and the hard work and the cooperation are usually a must for any success in this world. And we are actually lucky to have people at the Supreme Council for Education who are broad-minded and who interact with all the new trends in the world. And I remember before we are on air, you mentioned that His Excellency President Sisi has already directed for having that twinning between the universities abroad and here. This sort of cooperation and twinning will put us on the right path, and we benefit from them. They also may be benefiting from us, because we have
brilliant minds.
We have very distinguished characters, and our students are so clever. They are hardworking. They are ambitious, and we can make very good use of this ambition to have prosperity for the education in Egypt. Nowadays, it's not only the method of lecturing in the university, but it is just the professor is just a maestro who's leading a team of not musicians but of researchers and students.
Right.
And I wish them the best of luck, since we have the love to education. If you are interested, for sure we will have very useful and fruitful results.
Great.
So, sir, what's your take on the educational reform program adopted by the government?
Of course, it's on the go.
Yes.
And we have to be patient. We don't have to expect very fast and quick results just with a twinkle of a second or an overnight.
Yes.
But things have to be given the right time and the duration itself, and with the sincere efforts, as I have mentioned earlier, will lead to what we wish to have. We are very promising people, and we shouldn't forget the very distinguished character who some of them have already been awarded the Nobel Prize for Peace in different places. And last month there was a very nice event which is annually done. That's for honoring the top class students and the scientists in general. And this sort of encouragement, of course, will give them a very good push forward. We should say always, forward ever and backward never. However, if we go backward, we can benefit from our mistakes. It's not a mistake, as I usually say to my students, it's not a mistake to commit a mistake. But the biggest mistake is to repeat the same mistake.
Right.
Which means that you learn nothing. If we develop, we will progress, and we will be on the right path to be honored later on. If not here on earth, it would be in the other life.
Right. Dr. Gad, university is naturally one of the main pillars of education in Egypt. How can this kind of education be designed to meet development goals and development targets in our country?
I liked very well the word pillar, very much the word pillar that you mentioned. That's for sure. The universities are the pillars for the progress and development.
A cornerstone as well.
They are cornerstones, of course. And I'm pleased to say that a focus nowadays is on the education and health. Let us have our concern now about education. And this budget that has more than we had before, and a budget also for the scientific research. We have a national center for scientific research headed by a very well distinguished scientists who exert all their efforts to develop the educational system, especially in the high education. And of course, this will be in collaboration and cooperation with the other universities, as mentioned earlier this morning. We have to study what the results are and emphasize the good points, avoid the weak points that we must, because shortcomings are likely to happen all the time. However, we should benefit from and this is not to frustrate us. So our goal is far to be a long cherished dream that will be achieved with the sincerity and the love to our country, Egypt. I would like to add that it's our role, not only as mass media but as university staff, to spread awareness for our students,
Yes.
that they are the direct beneficiaries of the educational process. And if they do not take part, very active part in this process, I'm afraid the results will not be as desired to be.
So, sir, in your opinion, what are the challenges that still face educational process in Egypt, and how can we face them?
Right. It comes to one's mind immediately the financial problem.
Of course.
However, if we can make the best use of the allotted amount of the budget for the education, we can do lots of miracles. And I remember I mentioned before that people who were in the past did not have all the facilities, the up-to-date facilities we have here, like the air-conditioned labs, the instruments, the materials, the electronic methods.
Yes.
All these were not available in the past. So our students nowadays in Egypt can make use of them and benefit, and not to give up easily. They have to insist and work and try again and again until they reach the desired point. This is through their ambition and their hard work, the efforts they exert all the time.
Right. Dr. Gad, how to educate university students to be competitive in working fields, the tips that you want to give to teaching staff and to students themselves, so as that we would see them better prepared for the job market.
Right. First, let me mention, I like the word you mentioned, Mr. Ahmed, the word tip. And tip is an abbreviation for 3 words: to ensure payment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the payment financially. It's the payment in the work and the paying of attention to the work they have. So if they have everything well studied and having cooperation with each other, searching the net, searching Google. I like the word used recently. I'll Google it as a verb,
right.
Exactly as I will email it.
Right.
So this sort of search and the spirit of continuing research without giving up, that will actually put us on the right path and will help us. And it's no problem at all if we consult. The consultants are always there to give us the pieces of advice that we need, and
the tips that we need.
The tips that you mentioned. Maybe it's the first time to mention the word tip. What it
it's the first time I know it. I mean, to ensure payment.
That's it. The payment of attention.
Very valuable piece of information. Thank you, Dr. Gad.
Most welcome. So it's the effort and the planning, as I said, and we have to minimize the traditional methods of teaching in the past. Now, students are having the bulk of the work inside the classroom or the lecture, and all what they have to do is that they have an assignment before coming to the lecture, and then they present what they have, open to the discussions and or even debates. These debates are not useless. They are very nice that they open the gates wide for other points of view and maybe for additions to solutions to the problem that we have. We always know that 2 heads are better than 1.
Right.
So when it was only 1 person, this is a domineering person, now we have something democratic, not being a dictator.
Right.
I mean, whether the professor or the learner, who is, as I said, the direct beneficiary of the educational process.
So, sir, how can we encourage scientists here in Egypt and support them?
Outsiders?
Scientists.
Insiders?
Scientists, young scientists, students who are
studying science.
Studying science.
Right.
As we were celebrating the Day of Science recently, and you were our guest here.
Right.
We talked about that.
Well, I think if these young people have some video films about the history of education, the history of honoring science, which started in the late 50s and the early 60s, when I think Dr. Taha Hussein, Dr. Mr. Tawfiq al-Hakim, and Abbas Mahmoud al-Aad. They were honored. So they can set them as role models for them. Of course, this will encourage them, and they could work hard to be achieving something like these people. To mention the stories in detail for our distinguished people who got the Nobel Prize. The different four characters in politics, in literature, in human rights, and whatever the points were. These people will be inspiring the old generation to, why not to be imitating them and be like them. It could be a push forward for such young learners.
Right.
And they are our future leaders. So if we give the due care to the future leaders, we will get them as we wish.
Right, Dr. Gad. What about the social role to be played by university students to promote their societies? What do you, what's your view on that? Tips again.
Fine. As a matter of fact, the social life in the university should not be ignored at all, because it strengthens, this social life strengthens the ties between the learners. And these learners, if they feel that they are members of one family, they will be very hardworking, they will benefit each other, they will share the feelings of each one of them, and of course they will be very productive. So if they have some trips, for instance, one-day trip, if they have a gathering, potluck during the day itself, if they have visits to places nearby of historical importance, archaeological things. I'm expecting so soon, of course, the GEM, the Grand Egyptian Museum, to be inaugurated soon, and that will be a very international event. Why not all our students, this is something social, go and see and be proud of our country. It's Egypt, which we love, and I remember once I interpreted the letters of the spelling for Egypt: E for equality, G for greatness, Y for youth, that's what we are after nowadays, P for prosperity, and T for tolerance.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So these are nice things actually to be taken into consideration. And if we implement and plant in our young generation the love to our country, and let them always repeat, long live Egypt, long live Egypt, long live Egypt, this will have very good results.
Absolutely.
So, sir, to what extent the twinning agreements that were signed with the international universities will help in upgrading the quality of education in Egypt?
Sure, this twinning will let us, as I mentioned before, the latest approaches that they have, and let us pick up and choose what's suitable to our morals, to our traditions, because we are, as Oriental people here, maybe we do not, especially the social points, they may not be suitable for us 100%, but for on the scientific scale, of course, this could be nice. And maybe they have the most up-to-date technological instruments that they use. So that let us have in our budget to purchase such instruments, to make use of them, and maybe we develop them, we add to them, because we Egyptians, I'm dead sure, are masters and intelligent people to use our brain for adapting and adopting to the situations that we have in our country.
Dr. Gad, as an educational consultant, are you satisfied with the scale of support that the distinct students receive from their respective universities. And when I say distinguished students, I mean academically or otherwise. They could be athletes, they could be distinct athletes, Olympic champions, talented in their individual or team sports. So are you satisfied with the scale of support that these distinct students get, or do you want to see more?
I'm sure you are not cornering me.
No, I just wanted to know your view as, as a consultant.
Let me have some limits in this. We are on the go. If we make a comparison between the past and the present, of course we are progressing. We are doing our best more than before, according to the limits, the financial limits we have. However, we should not, as I mentioned earlier, give up. We should make full use of what we have in hand, and this will help us. The encouragement and the motivation that we have from the government bodies will help us a lot. This honoring of the top scientists and students all over Egypt, of course, will help them a lot to be on the go, as I mentioned. Despite the limited financial resources we have to make use of them. We have to develop, and maybe we can have some economical methods that reduce and save a lot of money of the budget. We cannot go far from the attainment of the fulfillment of the target that we have in front of our eyes.
So finally, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Nabil Gad, educational expert. Thank you for being with us today.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Gad. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Please stay with us, dear viewers. Shireen and I will be back momentarily, and we will be talking about the largest known Egyptian obelisk, that is, of course, the unfinished obelisk in Aswan.